All right, let's talk about how these supporting details build upon one another and why they're crucial to developing the author's focus. So, last class, we were able to just identify and kind of put them in their own columns, right? What were people, events, and ideas that were mentioned within the article or within the video, excuse me. So, let's look back at what I did last class. So, the speaker started off with people, right? So, she started off with a story about the fifth grade girl who likes to play soccer and then led into the boy who chose a pink covered book. So that's important that she started off with people because people can relate to other people, right? Sometimes when we jump right into events or ideas, sometimes the reader's taken aback as if they might not be able to relate. But if we talk about just in a general sense, people, then people can see themselves. Maybe they were the fifth grade girl who likes soccer, or maybe they were the boy who chose the pink book. Maybe they have sons or daughters or nieces or nephews who have been through the same thing. So by beginning her speech with a very generalized kind of supporting detail of people, then it engaged the audience. After that, as you see, this people supporting detail linked to this event right here. So then she started building upon by giving specific events that have been happening to give supporting details to the fact that there are issues in our society about gender equality. And then she built into the ideas section. So she started off with the idea of feminism often being seen as a rebellion against men, right? So she starts talking about the problem. So just like when we talked about author structural choice, there was problem solution. You have to identify the problem first and then the solution. So these supporting details are building upon one another in level of complexity. So again, they're starting with a basic supporting detail of a generalized idea of people in general, then going to a specific event, and then going to grandeur ideas, bigger ideas. All right. And then these are all kind of used to help one another. So she mentioned Malala as an activist. Absolutely will link to a larger idea of the idea of act like a girl, act like a man that she brought in, because Malala was pretty much torn apart by society for wanting an education as a woman. But she's an activist now for women's rights and for equal rights. So all of these things kind of build upon one another. And just like we did last unit with looking at the relationship between story elements, looking at the relationship between themes, you look at these supporting details and see how are they building upon one another to strengthen the argument. So how are they helping one another to strengthen the argument? So let's jump into today's reading. So today's reading is called We Were Wrong, We Are Sorry, and We Will Never Let This Happen Again. And this is about the systemic discrimination against the LGBTQ community. All right. So as you're reading, what I want you to do is you can either use the comment feature in Cami, or the markup feature. If you're using the markup feature, I want you to choose 3 different colors: one for people, one for events, and one for ideas. If you're choosing the comment option, then you can just, as you highlight it, comment, is this an example of supporting details with people, events, or ideas? All right. So I'm going to start off reading this for you. And we're going to kind of jump right into it. So it starts here. This is the title. This is a different article at the top, so you don't have to read that part. So I'm going to start with the first page and kind of show you what we will be doing as we're annotating. Okay, so we were wrong, we are sorry, and we will never let this happen again. Today, we finally talk about Canada's role in the systemic oppression, criminalization, and violence against the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and two-spirit communities. So I'm going to also ask it to read to me. So here we go.
VSOTD. One of the greatest choices a person can make in their life is the choice to serve their fellow citizens. Maybe it's in government, in the military, or in a police force. In whatever capacity one serves, dedicating your life to making Canada, and indeed the world, a better place is a calling of the highest order.
So right there I can stop, right? And that's an idea. The idea of making your life choices to serve fellow citizens. So I'm going to use the markup option, and I'm going to use purple for. So in my notes, I would even say, I can even write a comment here. Comment. Purple is for ideas. Because if I have to come back to it later, I want to know what color I use, right? So we're going to start here, and we're going to go back to text to speech.
Now imagine, if you were being told that the very country you would willingly lay down your life to defend doesn't want you, doesn't accept you, sees you as defective, sees you as a threat to our national security. Not because you can't do the job, or because you lack patriotism or courage, no, because of who you are as a person, and because of who your sexual partners are. Now imagine, Mr. Speaker, being subjected to laws, policies, and hiring practices that label you as different, as less than. Imagine having to fight for the basic rights that your peers enjoy over and over again.
Okay, so automatically I want to do markup again. Subjected to laws, policies, and hiring. That's purple for me. And then over here, also purple, right? So this is for ideas. So imagine having to fight for the basic rights that your peers enjoy over and over again. This is not one specific event, but it's a larger idea. I know it's something that's happening, but it's a larger idea because it's not one specific event that's being mentioned. Okay, so I'm going to click text to speech, and I want it to start here.
And imagine being criminalized for being who you are. This is the truth for many of the Canadians present in the gallery today, and those listening across the country. This is the devastating story of people who are branded criminals by the government. People who lost their livelihoods, and in some cases, their lives. These aren't distant practices of governments long forgotten. This happened systematically in Canada, with a timeline more recent than any of us would like to admit.
All right, so even though it's not specific in the sense of naming names, right? Just like in last classes, the little boy didn't have a name and the little girl didn't have a name. So right here we have people who are branded criminals and lost their livelihoods. Those are people that they're bringing. Oh, I don't like that yellow. That they're bringing into the supporting details to help further their focus.
Mr. Speaker, today we acknowledge an often overlooked part of Canada's history. Today, we finally talk about Canada's role in the systemic oppression, criminalization, and violence against the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and two-spirit communities.
Okay, so that's definitely an idea, right? Canada's role in the systemic... Whoop! I didn't want that! No! You just hit undo up here, by the way. All right, back to text to speech.
And it is my hope that in talking about these injustices, trying to never repeat them, and acting to right these wrongs, we can begin to heal. ... Discrimination against LGBTQ2 communities was quickly codified in criminal offenses like buggery, gross indecency, and bawdy house provisions. Bathhouses were raided, people were entrapped by police. Our laws bolstered and emboldened those who wanted to attack non-conforming sexual desire. Our laws made private and consensual sex between same-sex partners a criminal offense, leading to the unjust arrest, conviction, and...
All right, I'm going to stop there just so we can mark up first. So here I see a different notation, right? So these are actual events that happened, right, against the LGBTQ community. So I'm going to label that a different color. So we have purple for ideas. Then here I'm going to make a note that this is for yellow for events. And then over here, oh, sorry, my silly. This is for people. And then over here, we have blue for events. Okay. So as you're reading the text, and you're going to finish reading the text on your own, you are going to identify, whether that's with a comment box or highlighting like I modeled, you are going to identify the supporting details that this author is using in terms of ideas, events, and people to help solidify their focus, right? To help perpetuate what it is that they're trying to put forth to the reader. Okay. So you're going to start right here on page 13, it says, and you're going to do exactly what I did. All right. So you will have my model. So it is a few pages long. It's only 13 and 14 collectively. But then when you're done with that, what you need to do is you need to go back into classwork, and we're going to analyze. So first step is to annotate and identify the supporting details with ideas, events, and people, and then go back into classroom, and we'll be analyzing for author's focus and how these helped build upon one another, just like we've been talking about. All right, get going. Love to see your annotations.